What's up guys, I'm Dave and today we're talking about why you should never lease a car. In general, car leases are ripoffs and a terrible financial move for you on multiple fronts. When someone tells me about the great deal that they got on their car lease, very few things hurt me and make me audibly groan more. I literally cannot hold it in. Saying you got a great deal on leasing a car is like saying your toilet barely overflowed. No matter how it happened, it still sucks. Leasing a car is the most expensive way to drive. Dave Ramsey says it, I say it, Consumer Reports says it. Now let's get into some reasons why leasing a car is not a good idea and why you shouldn't do it. First, you're basically paying to rent a car and you own 0% of it. No matter how much money you put in, you own zero. You know how people often say that they're throwing their money away at renting an apartment when they could be owning a house? It's like that, but people still choose to lease on purpose because they think that they got a really good deal. They have been fooled. Let's look at an example. Let's pretend that someone had a 5-year lease at $250 per month. That's $15,000, the price of a really solid used car, and during that time, they had to do maintenance on the car like they owned it. So after 5 years, they put $15,000 towards something and they have nothing to show for it. That is very sad. For that same amount, they could have had a really solid used car that still has some life in it that they could have sold or traded in for something later, but instead they have the hollow satisfaction of looking like they could drive something that they actually can't afford. Next, when you lease a car, you actually pay more for the car than it depreciates while you're driving it. This is why dealerships do leases. You're basically borrowing the car already, and then you're paying an odd form of interest by paying more than it depreciates every month, and that's on top of the sneaky high interest on the lease itself. When you lease a car, you might hear about something called a money factor, a lease factor, or a lease fee, and that always sounds like an incredibly small number. Whatever they call it, you have to multiply that number by 2,400 to figure out your interest rate. 2,400, that can make a very small number turn into a very real interest rate. So in sophisticated money terms, with the depreciation and the interest, that double sucks. If you're enjoying this video so far, please give it a thumbs up to help more people find it on YouTube. By now, you've probably heard of range anxiety on electric cars, which is the fear that your car will run out of juice before you get somewhere. With leases, you have a mileage cap that penalizes you for going over that number. That penalty could be about 5 to 20 cents per mile. Enter mileage anxiety. While some people, like me, drive less than the 10 to 15,000 miles per year that are in most lease limits, a lot of people drive more. And if you do, say goodbye to those long road trips and volunteering to be the driver when family comes to town. I've actually have friends that have leased cars and felt like they could not drive anything more than the bare minimum of going to work and going home and getting gas because they were so close to their limit. And if you already hit this limit, can you imagine paying a fee of like $1 to go to the grocery store to go get gas? Or think about how it would feel if part of your paycheck was going towards a penalty that you had to pay just to get yourself to work. High mileage leases do exist, but you guessed it, you pay for it. While you might be driving a newer car, if you're like me and you like just owning things free and clear without having to think about them later, a lease is going to sign you up for years of mileage anxiety. Also, let's talk wear and tear. While there is some level of wear and tear that most dealerships will allow on a car, when you return your car, the dealership can charge you extra for what they deem to be above average wear and tear. Remember that time when you moved out of an apartment and your landlord took a good chunk of your security deposit because of what they deemed to be wear and tear? Welcome back. These wear and tear penalties are a normal part of leasing, and you don't even have that security deposit to help you cushion the blow. When you own your car, it's your choice if you want to fix something. Random shopping cart hits your car, your choice. Kid goes crazy with Go-Gurt in the backseat, your choice. Your dog sheds more than he's ever shed in his life on your all-black interior, your choice. With a lease, you're adding up those wear and tear expenses as they come. When you own, it's your choice if you want to fix them. Now let's talk about some reasons why people lease. Many people lease a car because they want to have a lower monthly payment. The problem with this is that the monthly payment is usually not that small, which makes it really hard for you to save for a car and lease one at the same time. The reality is that leasing a car can create a never-ending cycle of car payments that's very hard to get out of. This cycle can be even more difficult to break because people get really used to driving a new car and feel like they deserve it, and this is almost a borderline absurd argument to me. Lots of people want to drive a new car. Almost everyone wants to drive a new car, but responsible adults drive cars that they can afford. If everyone would just drive cars that were within their means, the world would be in a lot better financial place. Personally, I'm pushing $1 million in net worth and I'm driving a 14-year-old car and I'm only looking at used ones for my next one. If you can't afford a new car, you can't afford a new car, and that's okay, but you shouldn't take a lease to make it look like you can. Dealerships do a great job of convincing you that you deserve a new car or that you should be driving a new car, when in reality, you're probably in a better position just buying a reasonable used one. And of course, after a few years of doing it, people get hooked. People want to buy a new car, they want to have the newest everything, and they get really used to it. And that is very sad. It is a trap, and people fall for it every single day. If you lease a car, you're doing the thing that everyone agrees is the most expensive way to drive a car. You know when you wonder why people go to a restaurant that has terrible reviews? When you lease a car, you are being that guy. Even worse, it's very difficult to get out of the cycle of leasing cars that makes it really hard for you to pay down debt or build wealth. If you learned something new from this video, please give it a thumbs up or share it with that person that you're trying to convince not to lease a car. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Debt Free Differently.